Hello, viewers. Welcome to the Art Lounge Alley. This is the project stream, and I'm your host, and this is what I'm working on right now. For those of you who are tuning in and you guys have been following the project stream for a while, you could see that there is quite some progress. There's a lot of things on here that have changed. I spent a lot of time offline focusing on it, trying to finish up the first stage, which is like the pencil work, basically the ink work, and finalize some things on here, and then just spending a lot of time with color. This is just the beginning. I'm going to be like playing around with these colors, and that's what I've been actually busying myself with. Things like changing this, for example. And there's just so many possibilities that go into it, and really have an impact on the entire image. So it's a game of like mix and match, how trying to like make it an interesting, vibrant, colorful sort of experience. And really, it's hard to figure out what the colors should be up until everything is colored. For me personally, like I think, as far as like what kind of colors to use with one another, playing around with the buildings, obviously in the background. I'm going to be doing some work on that as well. But for now, I'm just laying down colors. I'm just trying to fill in as much as possible. And then once I get through that, I kind of like that actually. I should go back to that. Then I'm going to play around with colors even more. Then I'm going to like, then I'm going to pick actual colors that I want to use. But for now, I'm just kind of having fun and trying out new things. I'm not really, just similar to the drawing phase, where it's like in the beginning you're just sketching things out, right? You're not like fully devoted to anything. It's just a matter of like placeholders, right? This is something that I say very often. It's like these colors are just placeholders for what I'm eventually going to pick as like permanent colors. But at the same time, being adventurous, I don't want to. Obviously, I've done some color work in the backgrounds, and my other projects that aren't on the stream, and personal stuff that I've done off stream, and I've been really into playing around with vibrancy, like just figuring out all these different types of colors and taking out as a challenge to make them work, making them bring out the scene even more. Because sometimes, or the stuff that I've been observing, like Mobius's work, and Geoff Darrow is another favorite of mine actually that I've been paying attention to. Where am I making these on the wrong color? Yeah, I was doing it on the wrong one. Yeah, Geoff Darrow, if you guys haven't checked out his work, it's excellent. Him and Mobius actually work together. Let me see stores. So I'm going to merge this one with this one. Boom. Okay. Yeah, him, Mobius and Geoff Darrow worked together, and they created a comic book which is pretty cool, and I'm like fishing for it now. Actually, I'm gonna try to find it, see what that looks like. For those of you who are not familiar, this is Moebius's work, and I absolutely love it. His work is incredible, very imaginative. If you guys haven't checked out the special streams, there is a special stream that I had in the past introducing you guys to Moebius, introducing you guys to this comic book, and showing you different panels, talking about him a little bit. It's in the video section. If you head over to the video section, if you filter the videos based on collection, you'll see a folder or collection labeled highlights, and in that highlight folder you'll see all the special streams that I've had throughout the Art Lounge Alley, and one of them is me introducing you guys to Moebius's work, showing you more panels and just how creative he is. And Jeff Darrows is also on that same line, like in that same direction. Also very creative, incredible line work, very cool scenes. Very much into. But their color choices are, as you could see, they're a little bit more subdued in this at least in this panel, because there's other comic books where the color choices are more vibrant. But I wanted to kind of challenge myself not to get into that zone. And visually, that's just kind of where I want to take things. You know, if in this environment, in this story, in this comic, I want things to be in that overly saturated kind of place, because it plays into the story of, like, you know, the best way to brainwash people is just to dangle very shiny things in front to take their attention away. I mean, it's kind of what advertisement does nowadays anyways, right? Like, you look at the advertisements that they have, and it's like really bright colors, really lush colors. That's one of the reasons of, like, why they choose the colors they do for candy, you know, for, let's say, like a Snickers bar or a Kit Kat bar. Like, the colors are very vibrant, and that's appealing to kids. That's appealing, like, it grabs their attention, you know, and kids love that stuff. So you know, in that same vein, like, a lot of other things that they advertise tends to follow that logic. You know, if it could take your attention away and make you focus on their product, they'll do that. So it's just kind of like the idea with these storefronts as well. They're just like, you know, like, take a look at our vibrant colors and our awnings, and you know, come and buy our stuff. So I kind of want to just, like, challenge myself to make all that stuff work. And this is the beauty of doing it digitally, I'm gonna say, because you really have so much room to play around with color. But it also amazes me to think, like, when you look at work like Conan the Barbarian, when you look at other comic book artists who are doing things traditionally, how well they grasp the color palette, and how well they understand their own color palette, where they don't need that sort of freedom, where it's just that easy for them to be like, yeah, I'm going to do it like this. And then they nail it. And the panels really work. The page, that's another thing. It's not only just the panel, when you're coloring a panel, it's not just that. It's also the page. Sometimes you'll see the artist or the colorist color the page in a way where all the panels are unified, and it just works so well. I'm gonna have to skip this one. I'm gonna get some questionable stuff. This is one of the side effects of choosing these like EDM or electrical streams or radio stations, is we could get these weird songs pop up. But yeah, just going back to that, like artists of that time, or artists who are now like still doing things traditionally, just to see like how well they're able to just nail it. There's just like so many possibilities. But yeah, I get to, that's the cool thing about all this digital stuff, is that I get to play around with stuff like that and be like, maybe this is better. Maybe another color would be more suitable for it. Or like studying Gil Elvgren's work, the paintings that he's done. And he was putting out like 2 paintings, I want to say, per month, which is really laborious work. But he had such a strong understanding of color and composition and everything that he didn't get chances like this, like to just move around slider bars and be like, maybe this color, he just kind of knew, like I guess he would do other sketches and kind of play around with that. But it's just to show, like, we really have such a huge advantage when it comes to this. And part of me wants to, like, that's one of the reasons why I'm challenging myself to do things traditionally, is because I think you learn so much more, and you get such a well, it's a lot more challenging, right? You're putting yourself into a position of like really focusing on understanding colors and making better choices. And yeah, there is just so much that goes into it, that you learn so much from the traditional process. And I think it builds your confidence too, because you're making decisions on the fly almost. You're not getting these slider bars. But the cool thing about this, right, I'm just like, I guess I gotta kind of have to just like color them in with whatever color right now, and then use the slider tool to pick them. But I think the other thing to note is I'm using various colors, not only to experiment with color, but to also distinguish them for selection. And there are 2 ways to go about doing selections. You could either layer everything, right? You could just put everything on a different layer, like this store is going to be one layer, the other store is going to be another layer, etc., etc. you could just layer everything and then sort through the layers and adjust the light, the colors based on that. Or you could make distinct color choices so that when you go to the selection tool and you select it, it's not going to select everything. You know, it's not going to select, like, let's say if I made this if I just did a solid color of everything, then I wouldn't be able to just select the frame. You know, the frame is going to be within the color of everything. Excuse me. Within the color of everything else. So like if I delete that, I'm deleting the entire color. The entire color section of this frame. Whereas if I was to have everything to be in the same color, like the entire storefront would be this color, I just wouldn't be able to select that frame and change that. It would select the entire store. I hope that makes it kind of clear for you guys. If not, post your question in the comments, and I'll write you back or talk about it in the next stream and give you better examples of it. But basically, yeah, you got two options there. You could either layer everything separately and then play around with the colors after you color everything, or you could select color sections that you want to play around with in different colors, and then the selection tool is going to select only that color when you come back to it. So I'm not only just playing around with these really vibrant colors or different color schemes, I'm also trying to separate sections I might want to change or play around with later on. And I have a feeling I'm going to have to do that for this store right here. You know, it's pretty purple. I don't know how I feel about that. I think I'm going to want to change that at some point. Right now I'm kind of using both. You know, I'm using layers, and just to show you guys real quick, and I think this is kind of helpful, and I'll talk about that real quick as well. So this is going to be the store layer. All the stores are on this layer. I got the flying cars layer, even though there are a couple of flying cars that are on the wrong layer. I hope it's not. I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah, I thought so. Damn it. But just to give you guys a better understanding of what I did here, I sectioned things out. You know, I did the background color in this green color that I'm eventually going to play around with or keep. Really depends on how everything else turns out. That's going to be a big stage, I feel like, where I've completed all the colors and I'm just going to have to play around with things. But yeah, I sectioned it out to like the background color and the store color and then the floor color, because they're all going to be in the background, and as I'm going to be coloring things in the foreground, if I make a mistake and I erase them, it's not going to erase the background, and I don't have to work around the background and worry about it. You know, and it's easier. Like if I erase something and the background gets erased as well, then I'm going to have to spend the time to carefully fill it in, you know, and make that correction. Or let's say if I worked on the buildings first and then I did the sky, that's going to be laborious, because you could see how much little details around. So to fill in all that, all these tiny little crevices and areas, it's tedious. So why not just first do the background and then a layer on top of it? And if I have to adjust the buildings, it's not a big deal for the background. You know, I don't have to worry about filling in all these little areas. And that becomes, it becomes tedious. It could actually lead to you missing some things. Like I've missed some things sometimes where I complete the project, and then a couple of weeks later I look and I'm like, oh man, there's like this white spot that I just didn't fill in, and it just kind of bugs me there, or I'm like, I wonder how noticeable it is for others. But to avoid that, just fill it in as much as possible, and then layer on top of it. So I'm going from background to foreground. Like that's my order, background to foreground. And just layering on top of it. So next I did the background of the buildings. Then I did the cars. And now I'm on the front of the storefronts. And then I'm going to move on to the people. But it's hard to say like what my color choices are going to be final for the final part of the project until the people are filled in as well. You know, there's like so much to do with them, I think. And I'm going to be using various colors on them as well. So once that's done, then I'm going to feel at ease to be like, okay, let me work on the whole composition, how all the colors work with each other. So I'm excited about it. I'm also a little bit nervous about it, but I think for me, that's always been the case. Like, you know, I'm like, oh, is it going to turn out the way that I'm picturing it in my head? And the only thing that determines that is how much time I'm willing to spend on it, how much I'm willing to, you know, dedicate to all that stuff. And I'm almost positive it's going to turn out pretty well. You know, it's always, and I think a lot of artists have that too, like, especially beginners and intermediates. Like, I'm sure you guys are going through the same thing that I'm going through when it comes down to you sitting, when it comes to you guys sitting down and looking at a blank piece of paper and wondering, like, is it going to turn out well? Is this going to be worth it? Is this time going to be well spent? You know, so basically to say you guys aren't alone to it, and it is something that that continues, and it does get better. You know, as I mentioned, like, I feel more and more confident with it as I complete my projects. The more I challenge myself, you know, and overcome those challenges, like, this is something more challenging than I've done before. You know, I could say that honestly. Like, this scene is more complex than other scenes that I've worked on. And having to complete that, it could be something that I could think of next time I sit down and I do another complicated one. I'm like, oh, well, I thought that was complicated. And I got it done, and I got it done to my liking. So this shouldn't be as bad. You know, I should be able to get this done too. You know, so you got this in your pocket to remind yourself, like, hey, you know, you got it. You could do this. So it's just another important note of, like, you know, challenging yourself and pushing yourself to the next level, and what the benefit of that is going to be for you in the long run. And I am trying to be even better about my time. You know, I'm improving my schedule. I'm trying to procrastinate much less. You know, because I already have a pretty tight schedule, but I'm trying to fit in even more time to do these, like, side projects. And a lot of it has to do with, like, you know, not being not giving in to procrastination, not giving into wasting time, you know, like doing something else, or not appreciating the time of, like, let's say like half an hour or 20 minutes or something, and just really trying to utilize that as much as possible. And I remember starting out, actually, like, to get to this place, what I found to be very helpful was writing. So, like, I would write down, like, it's important to spend as much time as possible drawing, because you always feel rewarded, you know, like, or whenever I would sit down and I would draw at the end of the night, I feel really good about what I accomplished and about the process. And I remember how fun it is. So having that written down and then reading it every day, you know, just having like reminder notes for yourself, really helps. Because I find that the next day when I wake up, that isn't as of a vibrant memory. You know, it's not as I'm starting a new day, you know. So for me, it's like to read that and remind myself, like, hey, it really is great to do it. Don't procrastinate. Sit down and just draw. Like, you will get into it, you know. So you might not feel motivated, right? You might wake up and you might feel like, oh, I don't really want to do that, or I kind of want to just sit and like play video games or watch something on TV and stuff. But having that reminder there, reading it and listening to your own advice and being like, hey, you know, it's really fun. You have a great time when you sit and do it. And then when you accomplish it at the end of the day, you feel really good about yourself and how much closer you are getting towards your goals. So I think that really helps. So if you guys are looking for ways to create a good schedule for yourself, to create motivation for yourself, to not procrastinate, and to really start being regimented about like your drawing and about getting better and about staying motivated, this is a good step forward. Write stuff down, you know, write yourself reminders, post it on the wall or post it somewhere that you look at very frequently. You know, maybe your fridge, you see your fridge very frequently or something, and you can have it hanging there as a reminder, and you could read it every day. And believe it or not, it really does ingrain itself into your head, and you become more and more conscious and focused on it. And it really does count as a motivator. It's just like creating little rituals for yourself to stay motivated, like waking up and instead of looking at your phone, picking up a comic book and flipping through it. You're just not even thinking about it, you know, just doing it as like a routine, like you do, you're brushing your teeth. And then you'll notice how you're healthy, like you're happy that you did that. Like you wake up and you start looking at it and you're like, oh yeah, this is so cool. This is so interesting. And, you know, I could be doing this if I keep practicing, keep motivating myself to do it. You know, I could get to a place where I'm creating stuff like that, or, you know, my own stuff, my own stories, and, you know, I could be doing that as work rather than whatever I'm doing right now. If I stay motivated, if I keep drawing daily, if, like, I do all this stuff, I'm absolutely going to get there. And it's great to wake up to that sort of motivation. But for those of you guys who are who are tuning in regularly. Share what your thoughts are when it comes to waking up. Like, how do you feel? Do you feel motivated? Share with the viewers and your point of view and your experience. Get some feedback. I can help you guys stay motivated or figure out what you could do to improve on that. Give you some perspective, some insight. I don't know if this is going to be cheese or grease. Maybe a little bit of both. But again, this is like a marketing thing, so if the colors are vibrant enough, it's gonna capture attention. I don't know. I think what I was going for was probably red checkers, like red instead of black. Can I go over it? Is it? No, it's in the pencil layer. I kind of like the black and white as well. And maybe I'll just like make the brim on the bottom red. Question is, what color should this stuff be? Let's see how it looks with this. This kind of reminds me of this French fries place that I used to go to late at night. Back in New York, back in the day actually, because it's not open anymore. It used to be this French fry place that you would go to, and it would be like in this cone that they would give you all these fries and toppings on top of it. And it went out of business. Like, what? How does a place like that? And it was in a very busy area where there were constantly people, people coming out from all sorts of things, like whether it was like clubs or whatever it was, bars, and they would always go to the spot, and it closed down. I just couldn't believe it. I was like, that is like, who doesn't love French fries? How do they not make enough money to stay afloat? But it could have been that it wasn't up to code. Maybe like, despite like me liking the place, it might have not been the cleanest place, and it just got shut down for that reason. And they just didn't have, or they didn't take the measures to keep up with it. And you'll have that. Sometimes people will just throw their business away so that they could pocket more money for themselves, which is kind of like short-sighted, but whatever. It has to be lighter than that. Trying to change the storefront window color. And here's another thing that makes it better, because like, look, for example, the hat, right? There's like all these markings on the hat, but since I am going from background to foreground, it's not going to matter, because once I get to that stage of working on the people in the foreground, everything that I'm going to put on them is going to be on top of this. So it's just to make things easier to work with, you know, in the long run. So like what I was talking about before, when it comes to these selections, take a look. Like, it's not selecting the glass, and then if I select the glass, it's going to select even the color, even the markings. Well, that's like the only pitfall to it, is like if I delete it, you could see the outlines of the selection, because it didn't select every single thing. That has to do with this, maybe. I'm hoping. No, it's like a tolerance thing. So there is a bit of a pitfall when you don't layer things. It becomes difficult. You could also do there's like a scale for color selection scale. So it like selects all the like I'm gonna select this, for example. And it's kind of similar, you know. I want to say you could still see that it's not selecting some of that blue. I'm gonna try to see what happens when, yeah, the error margin, I'm gonna, let's say, do 20. Let's do 30. Kind of helps, you know. You could see it does have a lot of the selection here, for example. So I'm gonna do like the yellow. Anyway, yeah, that's something to work with. You know, I think it's easier if you're not making as many color choices as I'm making, for example. Like, you could just layer everything, you know, depending on what you're doing, how you're trying to color your piece. But because I'm making so many different color choices, it's going to be a lot of layers, and I don't know if that's really necessary, you know, for my work style. Like, I could figure out around it. Like, I'll make the selection, for example, and if it's not getting all the colors, then I will zoom in and change that a little bit or make that correction. You know, it's more important for me to be able to play around with all these different colors than it is to be really accurate with the lasso tool at the last stage, because then, like I mentioned, I could just lasso it, make that selection, change the color, and then zoom in and clean things up a bit. I prefer that, you know, because I don't have to sift through like hundreds of layers, figuring out like, okay, let me move this layer, then let me move that one, etc., etc. Like, I could just do selections based off of color. Like, I just have one layer for the stores, one layer for the cars, one layer for, ooh, it's kind of interesting to look at it like this. One layer for the backgrounds, buildings in the backgrounds. I'm wondering why it's being so picky. Like, it's the same color. It should just be able to select all of them. Trying to see if it's something to do with the being so picky. and try to decrease it to 10. Or for multiple, maybe that's the, because it should just pick the color. Like if I remove this, it should just pick the yellow. Yeah, like that. It should just by default pick all that. So there's a reference layer. Just trying to see how much of it would delete actually. It's a good indication of how good the selection is. Selected layer. I'm going to say selected layer. If I put the tolerance to 0. No, it has to be like 30, I guess. It's like a good... Seems like it's a good range. If I bump it up to 35, I want to try to get as much of the selection as possible of that color. 50. No, it's not selecting too much. Was 35 a good range? So I only have the selection, like it says refer multiple, and I have selected layer. So there's all layers, reference layer, selected layer, layer, and folder. So I have selected layer, and on this layer, it's only colors for these buildings. So whenever I click on it, and you could always like unselect areas that you don't want. So in this case, it selected this gray, and it's a lot easier to just unselect it and then play around with that color. So again, yeah, you could make the selections, you know, it might not be perfect. It might still retain like the outer edges of that color. Like you see over here, there's like some gray that isn't being selected. But that's something that I'm willing to sacrifice, because once I change it to the color that I want, I could zoom in and just do these little touch-ups, you know, so no biggie there. And I think because of the layer with the line work on there, it's also going to veil those like very much like outer colors that you saw, tiny bits of remaining of that color. It's going to be covered by the line work, so I'm not too worried about that there. I mean, once again, the most important thing right now is just to fill in everything with solid colors, make some choices for different color choices for different things that I'm going to want to play around with. Well, that pretty much does it, y'all. I'm going to end the stream here for the project stream. Probably going to be working on it even more. But hopefully you guys found this useful. Hopefully you guys found some of these tips useful for Clip Studio Paint. It's a great application. I absolutely love it. I fell in love with it once I discovered it. Not only is it great in terms of price, you know, in comparison to Photoshop, which is now like a subscription, I think. If you want to own it, that's not possible. Whereas with Clip Studio Paint, you pay like $40 probably. I don't know. They might have actually taken it down because they have different options available. There's like probably one for 30 or something. I'm not 100% on that, but it's pretty affordable in comparison, of course, to Photoshop, which is like $400 or something. I don't know. Some ridiculous thing. Or if you want to continuously pay for it forever, basically. I think this is a great switch if you guys are looking for a good application. Clip Studio Paint is one of them. There's also different little things that you could download. You could download models that you can use. Something that I haven't shown you guys before, but you know, just a little snippet there. You could actually render a model and use it. I don't do it. I'm more into the idea of learning the figure, but I'm not opposed to it. I'm probably going to use it at some point, but for now I'm just like challenging myself to get better and better at understanding the figure without using these references. I don't know. Maybe it's not like the best decision, but I'm working through that. Anyways, going back to the app, it's excellent. There's all the other things like perspective, which I am going to use. It's a very useful tool to make sure everything lines up right. So you guys you should check that out. But yeah, hopefully you found these tips helpful for those of you who are using Clip Studio Paint on a regular. If you guys enjoy this content, remember to hit the like and subscribe button. They're both greatly appreciated, and it'll help branch out to a wider audience. And I will see you tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be Figure Drawing Basics at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, followed by Coloring Comics, which is going to be traditional. I'm going to be painting over the panels you guys saw me inking yesterday of John Buscema's Conan the Barbarian. You guys can also check out videos that I've created in the past. I've made some short flicks about John Buscema. You could check that out by heading over to the video section, filtering it based on collection, and checking out the highlights folder where it has all the special streams, the short flick about John Buscema being one of them. It's a fun short 5-minute flick talking about his life, his journey to becoming an artist at Marvel, and showing you guys some beautiful, never before seen sketches of some, I guess, not as popular as his other work out there, or that's out in the public. You know, I had to do some digging. I found these beautiful, I guess, hidden gems, hidden sketches that he's produced. So check that out. It's in that collections folder. And I will see you guys tomorrow.